We now shift to the next key, one that unlocks the memory in the land itself, Stonehenge. More than a megalithic monument, it is a prototype, an harmonic echo of the New Jerusalem diagram carved into the earth itself. Stonehenge and St. Mary's Chapel, separated by millennia, are aligned by a common design. They shared sacred proportions grounded in the geometry of the New Jerusalem. It's not an imitation, but a transmission of the same celestial code. A primary ley line connects Stonehenge to Glastonbury Abbey. It passes directly through the centers of both the stone circle and the Wattle Church. So it's here. This is not a coincidence, it's intentional, an energetic alignment across time, place, and purpose. So what we are witnessing is the re-emergence of a long-lost design, a sacred template that once wove earth and sky together. I found inspiration in the Lady Chapel floor at Wells Cathedral. Its layout sparked something, a memory, an echo of a greater pattern. Some say Mary's Chapel once had a zodiac floor, and if so, it may have been laid right over the Wattle Church circle. That would mean the earliest Christian altar here stood at the very center of a cosmic diagram, marrying heaven's stars with the earth beneath our feet. At Wells Cathedral, we see an octagonal layout with a central square surrounded by zodiac symbols, a floor composed of 144 tiles, and we can see a 4x4 square grid. They are yellow here, which each has a zodiac sign, apart from the center, which is a 2x2 square grid. And when we bring the four squares together at the center, they form an 8x8 grid, 64 small squares, each just 6 inches across. We'll be seeing this grid on the next slide. And here is the fascinating part, the ratio between that square foundation, where the church once stood, and the central square of Wells Cathedral comes out to 6.6. So geometry connecting sacred space across time. This mirrors the proportions of Glastonbury's Wattle Church circle, suggesting a shared geometry, a cosmic memory encoded in the land. Within this structure, a 4-foot circle is inscribed, which is a fractal of the 26.4-foot Wattle circle. This brings together Earth, the square, and heaven, the circle, a direct reflection of the zodiac's celestial dance. The number 5184, that's 72 squared, recurs throughout sacred geometry. So if we calculate the area of the grid, it's 72 times 72, and it gives 5,184 squared inch. This number 5184 appears in the slope of the Great Pyramid, in the Earth precession, and in ancient measuring system. This is cosmic knowledge anchored in form. If we draw a square on the height of the pentagon, about 39.6 feet, it reveals a perfect 5-pointed star, almost like a rose pattern, right over the square platform where the Wattle Church once stood. The circles that form these rows have a diameter of 24.5 feet, remarkably close to the entire width of the Wattle Church itself, about 24 feet. So the geometry seems to echo the building's very design. At the heart of all of this is the number 5, the ether, the fifth element. It's tied to the dodecahedron and rose pattern, a symbol of divine proportion unfolding into matter. This is the blueprint of life itself, encoded in the geometry of creation. The old legends speak of a hidden grave, Joseph of Arimathea buried near the southern angle of the oratory. But this is not just legend. The prophecy of Malkin speaks in geometric terms: a two-forked line, a spring, a southern corner, all hinting at lake crossings, energetic intersections, and forgotten coordinates. This is where number and form meet prophecy. The rose pattern and Fibonacci spiral give us the key using sacred numbers. 5 for the pentagon and ether, 8 for the octagon, 13 for Joseph and his 12 companions. These are not just symbols, they are structural clues. They align with the New Jerusalem diagram and point to a real location. What geometric constructions will help us to determine the exact location of Joseph's grave, the golden spiral? And for this, we have to build a golden rectangle with a long side of 132 feet, which is here. That's 5 times 26.4 feet. 26.4 is the outer measurement of the Wattle Church circle. So we use the dimensions of the Wattle Church circle to build the nested rectangles, which will help us to build the spiral leading to a singularity. And this singularity, where does it start? Where does it begin? It's defined by intersecting diagonal of nested golden rectangle. The convergence of that singularity, which is here, was built from 6 spiral arcs. So 6 spiral arcs leads to our singularity. The diagonal gives us the exact position of that singularity as we carry on beyond the 6 spiral arcs. And 6 is the number of perfection, of creation, of man. That singularity aligns with the southern angle of St. Mary's Chapel, as described in Malkin's prophecy. This is Genesis code, gematria and geometry, all converging on a single point, the unveiling of the New Jerusalem, and the length of the spiral is 316.8 feet. The 6 spiral arcs. Length in total, I repeat, it's 316.8 feet, the gematria value of Lord Jesus Christ. So will it make sense? His name is encoded in his perfect design and will lead to the resting place of Joseph of Arimathea's grave. And here the final clue, the angle formed between the summer solstice axis, passing vertically through the Wattle circle center, and the line extending to Joseph, opposite grave site. close to the winter solstice line, is about 74 degrees. The old church before the fire, the Wattle Church of Joseph of Arimathea, has his heart right here. Geometrically, spiritually, this was the altar. 74 is not random, it's the ordinal value of Jesus, it's the geometry of Yasad. In Hebrew, it means founded, so it's about foundation. It's linked to the 86th digit of pi, the value of Elohim. Bond believed Glastonbury Abbey was built on a grid of 74-foot squares, that's 37 doubled. And remarkably, he said, the symmetry of this pattern held for centuries right up to the last abbot, which are waiting. Even the final addition, the 8-guard chapel, still fits perfectly into that ancient design. Genesis, Jesus, the New Jerusalem, all converging in number, direction, and stone. So what does that mean? Well, the post-1184 altar may have been set at the ecclesiastical east, but in doing so, attention shifted away from the original, more ancient, more patent center. And that center, if the geometry is right, is the center of the rose pattern, the zodiac, the New Jerusalem that leads by geometric steps. After the geometric construction of the golden spiral through nested golden rectangles, it leads to a singularity nearer the southern corner of the Lady Chapel, not far from St. Joseph's Well, which is here. If you were following the whispers of the land or the spirits, that's the place you might start looking.